Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of Rome Total Conquest. Today's factions are Germans, Spaniards, Spartans, Parthians, Romans, and Gauls. Each faction is played by a real player, and I will unfold events as they happen. Both the Germans and Gauls always have intentions with each other. Both nations send a small army to their borders. Both sides negotiate to avoid war, but it starts falling apart when they disagree with terms. As tensions start to rise between the two, both sides gear up for war and start building their military. Meanwhile, both factions send troops to expand their territory. At the same time, both the Romans and Spaniards push out to expand their territories as well, with the Romans heading north and the Spanish heading east. In the southeast, the Spartans and the Parthians both push east. With Spartan being so close to the Parthians, the conflict is sure to erupt sooner or later. The Parthians have expanded exponentially and unexpectedly according to the Spartans. To counter this, the Spartans expand just as fast and build their military at the same rate. Back in the west, the Roman and German military completely captured their territories, almost doubling their military might at the same time. With a small Spanish military attachment on the way to the south city, the Spanish also plan on going into Gaul and capturing the city just to the north of their border. With Gaul too preoccupied with the Germans and worried about an impending invasion, they seem to neglect the southern border. The Spanish take advantage of this and start slowly pushing north to the nearest city north of their border. The Germans take notice and start to worry, so they push north into Britannica with a small attachment. With Gaul being challenged by Germany in the north and Spain in the south, Gaul decides to put all of its attention in the north, challenging the Germans. Soon after, the Germans push into Gallic territory, putting their army right outside the most northern Gallic city and staying put. Meanwhile, the Romans seem to turtle, or at least play defensive, while they build their military might. This actually worries a couple of neighbors around them, as they don't know what they're going to do. Back in the east, both the Spartans and the Parthians try to expand for new lands. The Parthians push west, coming up on a Spartan-controlled city. But when they see the Spartans have a superior number occupying that city, the Parthians flee back to the east towards their capital. A Spanish legion finally makes its way to the southern Gallic city and captures it, denying Gaul full control of its own territory and the further recruitment of a military. As negotiations between the Germans and Gauls fully deteriorate, the Germans manage to attack the northern Gallic city, taking a lot of casualties but inflicting them on the Gaul side as well. But the city still remains in Gallic control as the Germans still continue to press the attack. Meanwhile, the Romans still seem to be avoiding the conflict between the Germans and the Gauls and still building their military. They also plan and scheme by sitting at the negotiation table with Germany and Gaul in an attempt to pit them against Spain, a rival of Rome. As the Parthians fall back to the east, the Spartans push on northward to expand its empire. The Spartans push north to Thessalonica and the city to the west of that at first, and then the further push north to the very tip of the border, denying the Parthians further expansion to the west, trapping the Spartans. This will force the Parthians north or force them west in a conflict with the Spartans, which the Parthians cannot do at this time. The Spanish continue funneling troops to the southern Gallic city, tightening their grip around Gaul. At the same time, Germany sends forces to Gaul's eastern city, while also reinforcing the German army at the northern Gallic city. To make matters worse for Gaul, an entire Roman legion arrives at their eastern city. As the Germans continue attacking Gaul's northern city, all the forces at Gaul's eastern city sit and wait for the next move. As a surprise to Gaul and Germany, the Romans decided to negotiate with the both of them, sending a messenger and then starting debates and setting on terms to be allies. After about 2 weeks of negotiations, the three came to terms and decided to go against Spain and eliminate the threat to all three of them. This deal seemed to benefit Gaul the most, and Germany knew it. So during negotiations, the Germans tried to make a deal where they would own Spain at the end of this war against Spain. But Gaul didn't want to be in between two powerful territories who already had bad blood between them, so they made sure they got the territory themselves. After finally agreeing, all three nations set out against Spain, amassing an army of around 41,000 troops in central Gaul. Back in the east, the Spartans continue expanding north virtually uncontested as their large armies march northward to new lands. The Spartans barely make it in time to the northern tip of the border before the Parthians try to expand west. Now sporting the world's largest military, the Spartans closed a grip around Parthians' throat, almost trapping them in the east. As the Parthians try to find a way around the Spartan expansion, they decide to garrison their cities with a formidable defense force. Back in the west, the Spanish are still building up forces, trying for the best odds for survival against three other nations. Boasting the world's second largest military, the Spanish have a strong grip on southern Gaul, getting the local population on their side. Altogether, the Spanish eventually get almost 2 whole legions to reinforce the southern Gallic city they have captured. Back in the east, the Spartans and Parthians are about to butt heads again on 2 separate fronts, both evenly matched in manpower and territory. It's hard to tell the victor. The Parthian military sends over 7 cohorts over the border going towards Thessalonica. It was intercepted by a Spartan legion. Also, a Spartan legion marched east across the border into Parthians' main territory at their main city, threatening the Parthian capital. The Spartan legion sits outside their city waiting, while the Parthian army in the north retreats back to their city just to the east. So it seems the stage is set for 2 separate massive wars at the same time, with the Parthians and Spartans playing cat and mouse, and Rome, Gaul, and Germany getting ready to march against the second largest military. Things are bound to go wrong, and chaos will dominate the battlefield. Thank you for watching the first part of this playthrough. Subscribe and stay tuned for the next part of the war. Who do you think will win? Find out in the next video.